What's going on, guys? Welcome in the Vikings Now. My name is Patrick Siepman. Now, I do want to talk about on today's show, Aaron Jones, the newest weapon of the Vikings offense. Will he change life in Minnesota this upcoming year? I think he will, and I think this is one of the biggest additions of the offseason so far. And then later on today's show, why Jalen Nailor, who is right now the overwhelming favorite to become wide receiver 3 for this football team, why he will be key for the Vikings this upcoming year. As you guys know, I've been a big fan of Jalen Nailor on this channel for a while. So we'll be talking about the two newest weapons of the Minnesota Vikings and how they will impact this offense this upcoming season. But before we dive into that, guys, I am making a promise to you right now. I will post a video every single day here on this channel until the last game of the season and honestly probably the entire offseason. So if you guys want daily videos the entire year all the way up into the last game of the regular season and hopefully a playoff game for our Vikings, hit that subscribe button. Don't miss a thing. I promise you there are a lot of good Vikings YouTube channels out there, but nobody will keep you covered like I do. So hit that subscribe button and lock us in. All right, let's start off today's show talking about Aaron Jones. As I really do believe Aaron Jones has kind of become the most underrated player and offseason acquisition this past season. And, specifically for the Minnesota Vikings, they needed to do something with that run game. And I think as NFL fans, when we see a team with a poor run game, we automatically attribute it to a poor offensive line. But that hasn't been the case with the Vikings over the past couple of years. Their offensive line has actually been really solid, but I think in 2022, Dalvin Cook was a below-average running back, and this past season, Alexander Mattison, he was terrible. I mean, he had 0 touchdowns last season, and he had 9 carries from the goal-to-go situations, and this is definitely a problem. And Kevin O'Connell's already alluded to it about him, putting more emphasis on the running game because in 2022 under O'Connell, they ranked 27th, 97 rushing yards per game. And in 2023, they were 29th in rushing, 91 rush yards per game. If you want to help your rookie quarterback or a guy like Sam Darnold, you give him a running game. It is the biggest safety net you could have. Now, I do want to show you guys Aaron Jones' last 5 games from last season because I think this was an talked about and underappreciated storyline from last year's NFL year. Now, in the divisional round versus the 49ers, he was fantastic. 18 carries, 108 yards. But he tore up the Dallas Cowboys, 21 carries, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns. Even the end of the regular season, 111 yards. Against our own Minnesota Vikings on New Year's Eve, he torched us. 20 carries, 120 yards. Then against the Panthers, 127 yards as well. So in the last 5 games, the least amount of rushing yards he had in either of those contests was 108 yards. And I think it's absolutely hilarious how everybody loves to talk about how great Jordan Love's second half of the season was. I have seen the stat graphic on ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS Sports all the time. But nobody talks about Aaron Jones and what he did in the second half of the year. And yes, Jordan Love was fantastic. I don't want to discredit what he did, but I thought more of the storyline of the Packers offense going from a mediocre team halfway through the season to ending up being one of the better offenses in the NFL was Aaron Jones. He was the key. But again, the quarterback, they get all the conversation. He's getting all the money. But I guarantee you, if Josh Jacobs doesn't live up to what Aaron Jones did in Green Bay last season, we're going to be talking about Jordan Love in a totally different light. And listen, this is a guy, Aaron Jones, I mean, us Vikings fans should be very familiar with him because he has killed the Vikings in past years. I mean, dating back to 2022, 1,100 yards. 2021, just under 800. 2020, he was fantastic, averaging 5.5 yards per carry and going over 1,100 yards. But even more ammunition on Aaron Jones dominating the second half of the season last year. This is one of my favorite stats in terms of evaluating running backs in the NFL because rushing yards over expected helped us Vikings fans see the downfall of Dalvin Cook coming before most other fan bases did. Rushing yards over expected, it sets up as an ESPN next gen or NFL next gen stat where they evaluate how many yards a running back is supposed to get on a certain play, do the blocking, and just how everything sets up. And Aaron Jones had plus 151 yards from Week 16 to the divisional round. That was number 1 in the NFL by a wide margin. Josh Allen, actually, funny enough, quarterback from the Bills, was number 2. But then guys like James Conner, Derrick Henry, and Pacheco following suit at 3, 4, and 5. And also Vikings training camp getting underway over the past couple weeks. Not a lot of people are talking about this guy, but every report I am hearing is saying he looks the part. He actually had a viral clip, him in the back corner of the end zone. Sam Darnold was rolling out left. Aaron Jones went to the back pylon, dropped into the bucket. He had some toe drag swag, so he was showing off his receiving ability. We already know what he can get done in the run game. I'm just super excited to watch him play. But Aaron Jones actually talked about some people disrespecting him a little bit this past offseason. And this is what he had to say. He said, "I feel like I'm still slept on. I feel like I don't get the respect that some of these other running backs get." I agree with him. But I feel like at the end of my career, when you look up and you look at the stats, I'll be right up there with the best of them. But for now, I'm just going to keep my head down and keep on working. I'll tell you what, that just got me chills right there. I'm already ready to go week 1 versus the New York Giants in MetLife Stadium. And, I think Aaron Jones is going to fix this run game. I'm not saying the Vikings are going to have a top 10 unit, top 5 unit in the NFL next season, but it will be top 15. You have continuity and some stars on the offensive line. Kevin O'Connell, even though we haven't been able to run the football with him, he can still get it done in that department and scheme up something. And I think Aaron Jones will just be a huge fix. And also, I'll say this. Vikings play the Packers twice this year. I will put any amount of money in my bank account on that he will rush over 100 yards in each of those games. Because what did the Packers do this offseason? They said, "Hey, Aaron Jones, even though you were one of the best players on our team when we were making our playoff run, we're going to go replace you with another running back and pay him more money than we were able to pay you in Josh Jacobs." That chip on his shoulder is massive, and I just can't wait to see him go out and prove everybody wrong. And he's working his ass off this offseason, just getting ready to go. But, hey, if you guys are excited to watch Aaron Jones just as much as I am, type his jersey number, type those 3 threes down below in this comment section. Show him some love. He is very active on social media, so maybe he's coming across this video. And if you guys want to show him some support, type those 33s down below. Now, coming up next year on the program, I am going to be explaining to you guys why I think Jalen Nailor, if he is the wide receiver 3 for the Minnesota Vikings, it will be a key position of this offense. That's coming up in just a second. But first off, guys, got to tell you about today's presenting sponsor, and that is Game Time, the #1 ticket purchasing app out there right now. And if you guys use promo code ChatSports, we'll hook you guys up with $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, first purchase only, but promo code ChatSports, and we'll give you guys $20 off. Now, if you guys are looking to go to a Minnesota Twins game this summer, you are in luck, as Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Now, personally, my favorite feature of the Game Time app is the views from your seat. It just helps you, be able to see what you'll be looking at any event you go to, so you can see if there's a random pole in your way, obstructing your viewing experience. So trust me, download Game Time today. You won't regret it. And if you guys use promo code ChatSports on your first purchase, $20 off for all you Vikings fans. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code ChatSports for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, Jalen Nailor has been dominating Vikings training camp, and he has emerged as the favorite for the wide receiver 3 position this upcoming year. We understand it was going to be a battle between Trent Sherfield, Brandon Powell, and himself to win that wide receiver 3 spot. Well, all the reports we were hearing out of training camp, the coaches are obsessed with him. J.J. McCarthy has raved about him. Local beat reporters have raved about him. He has been looking the part so far. And actually, Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell had this to say on Jalen Nailor, saying Jalen has done everything we've asked of him. And that really has not changed since we drafted him. Things happen that are unfortunate sometimes, and adversity hits guys. And we certainly don't get to have any say in the matter. All Jalen's trying to do is make sure, what am I doing pre-practice? What am I doing post-practice? What am I doing throughout practice to make sure I can handle the workload? We're all very optimistic about Jalen because he's proven what he is as a football player. It's not a question of that. Now, Jalen Nailor, he had huge expectations on him coming into training camp, and he needed to have a big training camp because we know the injury history. We know that bug he has been dealing with throughout his NFL career so far, but he has performed very, very well so far at training camp, and he has really locked himself in as the wide receiver 3 on this roster, and that's why in the ESPN's depth chart they put out, they had Jalen Nailor as wide receiver 3. Now, you also see guys like Tristan Jackson, Lucky Jackson. They had big-time performances in training camp, but it's key that Nailor has been able to beat out Brandon Powell so far and also Trent Sherfield. So I'm just very optimistic that if he, steps into that wide receiver 3 spot, we could be looking at one of the best young trios in the NFL. We'll talk about that here in a second. But Will Regetz of Score North did say this, who was at practice on Jalen Nailor, saying the Vikings 7-on-7 period in the low red zone turned into the Nailor show today. In a span of a few minutes, he caught a touchdown pass from each of the Vikings' top 3 quarterbacks. He made a nice lunging grab on a ball from Sam Darnold, snagged a one-handed catch on a Nick Mullins pass that was slightly behind him. And then he leapt up in the back corner of the end zone and got both feet down for a score from J.J. McCarthy. It was a display of the full skill set that Nailor possesses as a quick, fluid, and explosive route runner at 6 foot, 190 pounds. Now, Jalen Nailor and J.J. McCarthy are building a connection. Like every training camp clip I see of J.J. McCarthy spinning the rock, I feel like every single throw has gone to Jalen Nailor. We saw them celebrating a couple times, and I'll tell you what, something that just makes me happy about a Michigan State, Michigan quarterback, like those two getting along and building that connection, it's going to be special for the Vikings. But, more on Nailor, I think this is a massive preseason for him as well. Like if he can really emerge as a true weapon, because I'm assuming Jefferson's not going to play no matter what. I'm assuming Addison's not going to play either. So Nailor's going to have the bulk of responsibility at that wide receiver position. Plus with TJ Hawkinson out, a lot of pressure is on him. Now, I do want to show this real quick, talking about just the wide receivers of the future in general in the NFL. As I think the Vikings, if Nailor, ends up being the guy we expect him to be, and you got him at 25, Jefferson at 25, Addison is still 22 years old, and with Jefferson locked up, Addison still has a couple more years. Hopefully you get Jalen Nailor locked up here shortly. You could be looking at one of the best young wide receiver groups in the NFL. And listen, if Nailor ends up popping, like let's just say he ends up being a Tyler Boyd-esque wide receiver 3, where he is, obviously not top-end talent like Jefferson, top-end talent like Addison. That might not be there. But if he is just a serviceable wide receiver 3 and just a little bit better than KJ Osborne and what he was for the Minnesota Vikings, I'll tell you what, we're looking at the best wide receiver trio in the NFL for the foreseeable future. So I want to show Jalen Nailor some love to close out today's show. Type his jersey number. Type those 83s in the comment section. I'm just super excited to watch this offense play, man. There are weapons all over the board, and Jalen Nailor looks like to be the next, hopefully, really good Vikings wide receiver. So, also, guys, if you guys want to give me a follow on Twitter, that's the handle right there, at Pat Sieps. If you guys do so, I'll give you guys a follow back. So, hit me up over there for more Vikings training camp clips. We'll see you guys next time. Skol Vikes.